Hi guys, before you get into the next amazing conversation with another amazing guest, I just wanted to tell you I have now moved over to Substack. So it's the Never Settle Podcast.substack.com. The reason I've done that is because of the increase in censorship I am finding on YouTube, and I'm worried that maybe one day they're going to deplatform me. So please head over to Substack and subscribe. I'm very new into it. It's growing. There will be a lot more content on there going forwards and hope to see you over there. Well, hello, lovely listeners. Welcome, viewers. Today, third time now, we have Victoria Rixon. Victoria first started putting herself around, if you like, for want of a better phrase, as the whistleblowing midwife because of what she experienced herself when she was a midwife. And more latterly has been in the courts herself, taking on her own challenges because this girl's got the balls, the size of kahunas. I think that's what Terry said yesterday. And yeah, she's just going for it. I think Victoria's just on this like stratospheric trajectory to take on all of the corruption in the world and get rid of it. And she's holding hands with different people to achieve all of that, me included. So it was great to meet you yesterday in person. It was our first time. We forgot to do a selfie, but we will next time. So welcome back, Victoria. It's amazing to see you again.
Thank you, my love. Thank you for having me.
Of
It's a great
course,
space, this feminine podcast. I love it.
absolutely. So, what you want to concentrate on today is the information that you've basically received from the NHS and your governing body, and all the basically BS and contradictions. And you've had moments of Jesus Christ, that happened on the same date as that, and all of that. And I know you want to talk into that. I know you've been sharing stuff already, so this is not an exclusive. I know you're doing really well on TikTok because, like you just said, 800,000 views for one of your videos because people are going, hang on a minute, this is so. Do you remember this? And this sounds a bit like this, and they're starting to put their own pieces together. And people, let's be honest, there's so many people that have lost faith in the NHS. It doesn't seem to be the NHS that we once knew and loved. It seems to be, well, it's not about health anymore, is it? And it's not about welfare. So that's what you want to talk about today. So why don't you kick us off and let's see where this goes?
Yes. So let's just start with piecing some sort of story together that is really real life. So in October 21, I raised a grievance. It had got to the point that it had been so difficult to get shifts, that my environment wasn't safe to work in. I didn't have any reasonable adjustments with type 1 diabetes. It had gone on for so long now that I thought, I'm done. So my very good friend Kaylee, who's now a band seven manager there, she actually sent me the grievance form and said, fill this out and send it to Charlotte, who was my head of midwifery, who still is in position. So those two are still in their job roles now. So Kaylee was aware that I was going to do this, and Charlotte, obviously, it went into her inbox. Now, what's interesting, in the grievance policy, it states you can have it formal or informal, and I wanted it formal because I'd done so much talking. I thought it needs some overhaul, really. So when I got my email, my DSAR from the hospital recently. Now, what's interesting, Mel, I did a DSAR to the NHS where I worked at Derriford Hospital, and I did a DSAR to the Nursing and Midwifery Council. I got them both 2 days apart, but waited almost a year for them. So
Wow.
there must have been some collusion going on there. How best are we going to use a chess piece to get Victoria off our backs?
Doesn't
Because
a
she,
D doesn't a DSAR have to turn up within 30 days? Hmm.
so I put a notice of intention to prosecute to the hospital, which I now got a court case against. But this is interesting. On the 20th of October, um, 2021, I emailed my manager and I said, here is my grievance. And where's the email gone? She wrote back saying at 16:59, I sent this to my boss saying, here's my sorry, 12:36, here is my grievance. And my boss sent an email to her HR department at 17:03 saying, I'm going on annual leave. I don't want this sitting in my inbox, but can I have your advice on next steps? Unfortunately, this will be a complex case as multiple counter allegations with multiple managers now not wishing to line manage Victoria Rixon, right? Straight away, there's no default to are the patients safe? Are the midwives safe? What's actually going on here? What's the wider implications? What's the wider problem? What's going on with this member of staff? Her default was straight away to defame me with no backing, no evidence, and to disarm me with the very people that were going to investigate me because the HR department write all the letters for the case because they take the legal advice. So it then came back. There's a couple of conversations between my HR here, but she actually reiterates again at 8 o'clock at night, saying, "I'm happy to discuss with Liz, who was the investigating HR officer that supported my case. VR is a very complex character, and so many upset staff, making this quite difficult." So she did it twice in the space of 3 hours. And at no point did she care about the patient's safety, about my concerns. So to back that up, in the April of 21, I wrote on my appraisal form, how has this year been? Challenging. This has happened because staff morale, loss of interest in my role, coming back to work at 5 months postnatal, a brand new diabetes diagnosis, and my husband got made redundant twice. And then it says here, what have you learned? That there are lots of avenues for support. Talking to more than one person is not always conducive because I think it was about 8 line managers. And then I worked through that to say the lack of communication and the organisation in community and caseloads, and that we need to look at a better way of working. So that was the backing before the grievance now. And what's also interesting, in this document on the 23rd of September 2020, a whole year before my grievance, my line manager, Sherilyn, who's now left, wrote here, diabetes, no definitive type, because I was in a very early stage of like a slow onset. And it's put here, Victoria, to feel safe at work. Now, why would any manager have to write that? It should be a given that you're safe at work. So when I actually look back at these documents, it's taken me 10 days to not feel triggered by them because you don't actually know what's written about you. So to actually realize that my head of midwifery was sabotaging my character was, quite difficult because then I went back over the grievance that I actually submitted. Now, what was really interesting that I got in this bundle was another email from Charlotte Wilson. So I'm starting to see a theme here that they're giving me one manager's emails. You and I know what's going on here, don't we? But maybe they don't. And she's put in this email, continuity of carer. I'm aware that staff are feeling tired at the moment and not enjoying coming to work. One of the main reasons is the shorter shifts, introduction of a new model, and I want to reassure you, and it's having an impact on your work-life balance. So she's actually written that in an email in the May before I submitted a grievance in the October to say things are not safe, things are really, really uncomfortable. There's a lot of poor leadership, yada, yada, yada. So that's sort of backing all that up. Now, what was really interesting through that, when I got my grievance outcome, nowhere in my bundle of grievance outcome was there any counter allegations that no one wanted to line manage me. And nowhere in there did it say that I was complex and that there was a huge staff distress, as she named it. So when you look at it like that, Mel, she's infiltrated and is supposed to be a bias because she might have to be part of the appeal proceedings. She's gone straight to HR and defamed me like that.
Mm.
And not come back to me and said immediately, right, what can I look at on a real manager would say, right, I can deal with that, I can deal with that, I can deal with that. That needs investigating, that needs investigating. Straight away, Victoria, I'm going to make sure you're safe at work, the patients are safe, and that we can get you a good line management and that you've got a risk assessment and you're actually looked after. No, it took me almost over a year to get all that put in place. It was ridiculous. These managers are not fit to do their jobs. So during the actual outcome of the grievance, what came out of it was that there was a culture in maternity. It was written on the front, and that my boss, Charlotte, who's written all those things about me, has now agreed to do an NHS England cultural investigation and bid for money to help us have a better culture. Now, I was buzzing because I thought, yes, the staff are going to be heard. Yes, I've gone through all of that and there is something, even though the bullying, the harassment wasn't upheld. They mentioned stuff about I'd had a tough couple of years with my health. But what came out of it was the staff are now going to get listened to. And I was so proud of that.
Mm,
Now, when NHS England came in, the day that we got asked to go, because I kept saying, when are they coming? You haven't given staff the opportunity to go and talk to them, because what
mm.
they did was they emailed staff 2 days before. Well, you've got a clinic. If you've got a clinic full and you're on labour board, there's no way you're getting away to speak to these people. So I didn't like that. And I fed that back to them and said, that's not fair. And then it was cancelled. So they then reset it up a few months later. And the morning that we were all due to go to NICU, which was the seminar room, and enter the seminar room to speak, I'd encouraged a lot of staff to come with me and start speaking about how they were feeling. So I was saying to staff, if you're struggling, come and speak about it. When we queued up outside the door, we were due to go in, I think, 11 o'clock or something. The door opens and every single senior lead manager in our department walks out that room and stares and looks at us all. Oh, hello. But what did that do to my colleague? She went, oh my God, they know I'm here. They know it's me. And she did a runner. She was gone. And then the manager who I'd complained about in my grievance, Clara, who's a matron, she's an absolute flip-flop. She is the most weak manager I've ever come across in my life and cannot run a bath, let alone run a department. And she took the NHS England lead out to community in her car and stayed there while the staff talked to her. So she then knew who was talking to the independent body. I actually left before that report got released. I've asked many staff, have you seen the report? And none of them have ever seen it.
Wow. Well, what an absolute waste of time, but B, what an absolute expose of just how rife, if you want to call it that, the is corruption the right word, but the covering up, the covering each other's asses, like you said. That's
Yeah,
that's ludicrous. And this is predominantly women, I presume, in a midwifery area.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
just not putting staff or patients first.
No, it's almost like the lower you are in grading, you care more about your patients. The minute you go up, there's a shift
Yeah.
in it's now my job to make sure the reputation of the trust is never put into disrepute. I no longer care about the patients. I mean, that's quite a broad statement to make because not everybody does feel like that, but it's almost a bit like that, like a
Yeah.
gatekeeper. Now, see this image here. I don't know if you can see that.
I know
Um,
the filters. Yeah. Well, we can see a front of a hospital.
Yes,
Yeah.
I took that photo on my Instagram, right? And I put up this, it was my first day back to work. I'd been off sick for a while. And I went back to work and I put up the football song, Here we can go. And I tagged it to that post. Somebody screenshotted that and put it under my boss's door. So I would get in trouble. One of my friends, because my Instagram was private. So they screenshotted it and posted it under my manager's door.
Why?
This is because I was unprofessional. And they said to me, if you do that again, we'll refer you for fitness to practice. And I was like, you don't own me and my stuff. Like, what do you? But this is what I didn't realize at the time. It's a slow squeezing, oppression and fear and indoctrination. And we talked about this yesterday. It's like school.
So presumably that post was a fairly positive post. Here we go. You're going back to work, or was it not a positive post?
I just put it up. Here we effing go, which was to go back to work, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a football song that, and you know when the words type out as it's singing, It was that, but somebody screenshotted it, and this absolute idiot of a boss, Clara, who didn't care about the fact that we were all out there struggling in that email I've sent you. She's too busy bringing me in for stuff like that. And this is how they wanted to control you, because they never ever wanted you to speak out ever. So all these little things have now pieced together in my head with all this data, and I'm like, it makes sense.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. It reminds me of my last corporate job. Nothing like what you guys have been through, but my first boss when I joined the company, who was very much on the side of, felt like very much on the side of us, in terms of the issues that we were having with the product and service and support and all of those things. And then as soon as he got some shares, um, wow, that was a personality change.
Ego.
Well, it's not so much, it wasn't the ego, it was the more he wasn't getting in with us and being pissed off. It was,
Yeah.
well, no, we have, and it was very much the party line at that point. And it was just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what
I
happened.
almost know now you've got to sell your self to the devil when you're going through all these sorts of things. And not only did this, what was really sad about this situation was I'd raised that grievance in the hope that it wasn't just about me. I wanted to make the working environment better for my colleagues, because as you read from that email that I read out, they were miserable. They were crying on shift, Mel. They were we had a midwife who was going through the menopause, who had insomnia, as probably many women will know with menopause what that does, and they wouldn't let her work nights because they couldn't give anyone anything because they'd have to give it to everyone. So she was putting herself at risk. She wasn't sleeping.
Wow.
And and actually when I stood back, I thought, this is, I've got a voice and I need to help my colleagues. But what really came out of this, and I'll read this to you, is a member of staff. She's consented I talk about this. She had diabetes the same as me, and they made her work without breaks for the last 10 years. And I didn't know that. I thought, well, why are we not getting breaks? We're type 1 diabetic. You cannot not eat. It's so dangerous. And I encouraged her to write in and say, I'm putting in a grievance, because how they were treating her, and they were putting us through sickness absence as well. Like we were getting tarnished with sickness absence all every 6 months because we were having sickness. And in the NHS, if you have 2 sickness days in a row, that's one bout of sickness. If you have one day, one within 6 months and another one, it's a stage 2 sickness, which means they can then get rid of you after start formal process. So if I've had a hypo at work and I'm new on insulin and I've had a really bad hypo, I get a really bad headache, I want to go home and sleep. I don't want to continue thinking about having to give medicine to someone that's vulnerable. That's what they were doing. And when we started talking as staff, I realized this was not isolated. This was actually a big problem. And this is the email sent to my manager. Again, Charlotte. They've put Charlotte's email in here again. Isn't this interesting? I emailed her on the 27th of June, 2023 at 10 a.m. And this member of staff and I were going to meet with her and HR. And I wrote to her and I said midwife, and I've decided that coming to meet with you both would have no impact on our recoveries at this present time, therefore would like to cancel the meeting. We think it really significant to highlight not only the failings that I endured, but how my recommendations and grievance process were clearly not taken seriously, which saw said member of staff endure similar, if not worse, working conditions than my own, which continued after I raised my concerns. It's there in black and white. I've written, how could you not then think, right, we've got a grievance here and we've got 4 other members of staff with this autoimmune disease. We need to go and make sure they're all safe. No, they left them to rot because they never thought we would talk. But we did, and I've got it here. And that manager, without my consent under GDPR, we know this, emails it to my director of midwifery for your information. Well, what's that got to do? That's not information sharing and safeguarding. This is not a safeguarding concern. It's just we want to cancel the meeting with you because it's going on deaf ears. This is what this has highlighted to me, Mel. The corruption runs deep, and AI and electronic does not lie. It will hold the evidence, and that's why they conceal it. That's why it's so hidden. So when we do something like internal reporting, I've got a document here. Whenever you do a internal report of an incident, you're not supposed to put anyone's name in the datex. I've got an email here from my director of midwifery on the 20th. This is from Sue Wilkins. She's no longer there. She's left. On the 23rd of July 24, incident reporting, datex submitted, web form. The details are, and she's put the form number in, but she's actually written my name in the datex saying, I know of 2 automated phone calls that have come through to CDS phone line asking for confirmation of an appointment for Victoria Rixon. I since find out that Occupational Health and Wellbeing put labour wards number on there and not my own number. That's not my problem. That's an internal problem. But because the automated NHS that confirmed your appointment was ringing to confirm it, it was going to labour ward. So they've actually day-texted me and never even told me about it. I didn't even know this was happening. What is, and this is my argument. They're writing about people continuously. I've got thousands of pages here and no one knows about this. This is
Yeah.
happening to patients.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So
you put this DSAR in a year ago, and obviously it's taken this long to get it. What's the purpose of this? Of you having all this information? What are you going to do with it?
So the purpose of this is to try and highlight that I have to dodge every single claim that's made against me. So as you know, I've got a defamation claim and for being a baby killer. Um, Strangely enough, on the 1st of April 2024, I emailed the hospital to say incident on X, where I've said, I've been mulling over this. I set up a movement. However, a group of bereaved mothers have shared a post regarding my involvement with the death of a baby. I mean, I've not even checked spelling. It's so fast because I was so stressed. And my boss has actually replied to me saying, I'm sorry to hear you're subject to personal comments on social media. Easy to say, less to do, just don't look. That'd be all right for you if you weren't branded a baby killer online, my love. Most importantly, you're still in your notice period and still a valued colleague. With your permission, I would like to share your details with the comms team and ask them to give you some guidance. So I think what's happened here, Mel, is I'm able to prove with these documents that there was nothing against me. I wasn't a complex character. What I was I had integrity and authenticity, and it made them uncomfortable. Because in some of these emails, when you read them, my friend, who then I'll go on to that a bit later, who obviously told me to put in a grievance, has written an email to me saying, my door will always be open for you for a cuppa and a chat. Pop along anytime, take care. This midwife delivered my son. They put this in here as well. So they must have known that the NMC were going to send me this document, which matches a lot of the conversations in the hospital. They're using their strategic planning. So when I actually look at things like this, which I've handed back to the NMC, when I hand my notice in, my notice should only be shared for, again, data processing purposes. If I've told my manager, I don't need to tell anybody else because she's my line manager. Now, when I emailed my boss saying I'm handing in my notice, she forwarded my email to Workforce Development, which is the department that processes your leaving, my matron, and a manager called Michelle Bull. I can't bear her. Just for your records, Victoria's handed in a notice again, and so it has to be processed. Kind regards, Charlotte Wilton. So they're all allowed to talk about me, but I'm not allowed to be included in it. It's such a collusion going on in the background. Now, one of the emails that I found really interesting, again, Charlotte Wilton involved in this email. This was on the 2nd of March, 2023. During my grievances, I was a union of the Royal College of Midwives, which runs alongside Midwifery. Royal College of Nurses runs along them. They were obviously corrupt. The Royal College of Midwives, I put in a huge complaint about them. they were discussing my case with my managers behind my back. And you're not allowed to do that. You serve me as the member. So I had to step away from the Royal College of Midwives and I joined GMB, which is the original gas union. They got the workers' rights that people shouldn't work over 10 hours a day and they should be looked after. So the GMB is the real gaswork of the union of people. And I joined them, but they asked me to become a rep because they said, you've got so much knowledge, you would be brilliant as a representative. But the GMB doesn't necessarily govern maternity, it governs the rest of the hospital. When I became a rep, Mel, I emailed to my boss saying, my acceptance letter is attached. This was to my line manager, Joe Bird. She forwarded that to my matron, again up the ladder. FYI, V. Rixon has been appointed a GMB workplace rep. Regards, Joe. That then got sent to Charlotte Wilton. FYI. They didn't want me as a rep.
No.
They didn't want me anywhere near that. And this is what's going on. It's what is she watching? What is she doing? And the last email I'll just talk about is an email from a manager in 2024. In 2020, before my grievance the following year, that my matron, who was called Sherilyn, had a conversation with me about a complaint that a staff member had said I bullied her over an on-call. It wasn't bullying. But I went to her to de-escalate the matter, and she wrote an email to Charlotte Wilton and to the manager that I complained about before I put in a grievance and said, "Dear both, I've had a very lengthy telephone conversation with VR following my email conversation last night, and I'm fingers crossed, in brackets, hopefully she'll be willing to resolve this outside of a formal process. I'll speak to you both rather than type an essay, but in short, she's informed me that she's going to issue an apology letter at close of play today." So they all plan behind the scenes what their next strategic move is. Now, what I find beautifully interesting about this is I believe the NMC, which is our Nursing and Midwifery Council, and the hospital have had a conversation and said, Victoria's gained traction. She tags us in everything that is negative, which it is true, I do. She's highlighting us. We need to get her off us and we need to get her focusing on the next checkmate. Yeah? So they sent me my fitness to practice from the nursing and midwifery. This is the only document I received. Bearing in mind, I've revalidated twice, which was dozens of documents. It would have been pages and pages. My direct debit information, my bank details, my acceptance to their register where I agree to contract with them. But no, I get this tiny little document in an envelope that was signed for with nothing else. And that highlights Charlotte Wilton through and through, which is a separate entity to the DSAR here.
So for those that don't know what a fitness to practice is, so basically you're this whoever this woman was and said, fingers crossed, this, that, and the other, and you're going to do an apology. Was that right? You were going to do an apology?
I was going to apologise for offending a member of staff on calls, but I
Right.
wasn't going to apologise for bullying her.
Yeah. And so that was going on, but then the next thing you got was that.
This actually came last year. So I'm jumping a little bit because the documents they're proving a theme, not let's forget the dates. It's proving what's going on behind the scenes. The NMC and the NHS have given me only certain people's documents. There's no others, and it's certain managers, and those managers have been scrutinised in the past.
Yeah.
And I also know that my hospital is undergoing a saving of 100 million. So all my managers have to go through reapplying for their jobs. So it's not, it's, let's think strategically. They know I'm going to highlight this publicly, and they probably know I'm going to take it further, which I've done. So things like this, I've highlighted back to the NMC that on the 2nd of June 2021, 5 months before I put in a grievance, and only a few months after my boss had said, no one's enjoying coming to work, my manager writes, Claire Herbert writes to my line manager, Victoria Rixon left partway through her shift today with stress, anxiety, and depression, in inverted commas. bearing in mind work had been so grim to the point it was just unsafe, and you were safer at home. You weren't safe there anymore. So these real spiteful conversations are going on amongst managers in this department. So when I actually left and I walked out, they were waiting for me to make my first wrong move so they could refer me for a fitness to practice. Because, Mel, and I'll tell you why. When I left, I asked one thing. I do not want a collection, and I do not want members of staff to know that I'm leaving until I want to tell people. So when I left, I found this email in the bundle of information. Hi all. If anyone would like to contribute to Victoria Rixon's leaving gift, please see link below. And look at how many people received this email. Do you see that?
Yeah.
There's three pages like that. They sent that across the whole of my women and children's services when I asked for no one to know until I was ready. And that really got to me, because it's this disrespect, and that midwives can do what they want. There's the other part of it. It's another 2 pages of it. Look how many people are involved in that email. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So they can do what they like. So when I left, my boss has to fill out a form that says Plymouth Hospital's leavers form V28. Strangely enough, 28 is actually the numbers of my date of birth. Charlotte Wilton writes on the 9th of the 2nd, 2024, that I'm leaving because, why do you think she wrote I was leaving now?
You're a complex character, aren't you?
Well, I kind of thought that myself, but she actually writes work-life balance. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So when I left, I obviously had created this complex character. She doesn't ever shut up. She wants to help people. She's going to speak. So when I wrote my exit interview, which oddly isn't in that bundle, strangely enough, in the meantime, I do not know what they're planning. I knew something was brewing intuitively, but the day before I came off the register, I put out a Facebook post that said, tomorrow, 12 hours until I come off the register, right? And my friend Kaylee messaged me and said, I think you need to reconsider that. And that was on the 8th of April. What date is on this document? 8th of April, 2024. This is the NMC referral that they were planning on submitting about me to get me off the register so I would be investigated. That's why you do a referral. So for instance, I would refer someone so I've referred the midwife who called me a baby killer, who said I killed a baby online because she's breached her code of conduct by defaming me online. So I've referred her. So that's a reasonable decision. Now, what's interesting with this, Mel, is not only did they do it from the 8th of the 4th, 2024, they put the scope that the incident happened up until the 5th of the 10th, 2024. And what they did was they put in screenshots of why I should be referred. And let me just read one to you. This one makes me laugh. This is the screenshot they've used against me. And it says, NHS bosses destroy careers of whistleblowers who stood up to protect patient lives.
What?
That contradicts why you're referring me. Why would you refer me for that? Also, I put here, UK nurse regulator condemned over toxic culture. I wrote that on my movement page on Facebook on the 9th of July. And that was because the BBC reported that the NMC were found to be toxic. You're referring me for highlighting what's in the media. Okie dokie. She also referred me. Sorry, I actually deregistered on the 7th of April, but it didn't get registered until the 9th. So I've just realised that post says that. I put here, today I deregistered. I don't believe what I was trained in or what I practiced in is midwifery, and quite the contrary. I want to be free of the shackles of the NMC from my life and the NHS as my employer. Every inch of my core values and beliefs have been compromised since I entered the university building in 2013, and it's taken me 11 years to unravel the truth and come to this reality. And she's put that in there.
Wow.
So when you start thinking about what their plan is, my friend, my dear friend who was at the birth of my son, who was the midwife that I looked up to. I looked up to her so much because she really was a beautiful character and she was a brilliant midwife and she is a brilliant midwife. But all along, she's trolling my stuff and screenshotting things. And the reason how I know that is because she didn't take her picture off the screenshot.
Oh dear.
And she's inside this bundle. And what it says in the witness statement, who is redacted, is it states that the witness saw the cease and desist letter that I posted online. And that's the document that's posted online. So what I've highlighted here is, and what's interesting is, I've raised concerns all the way through. Anyone could say that, but now I've got documents to prove it. I've got all the outcomes to prove it. And I've got nowhere in there where I'm a complex character, where I've not done things by the book, that I've not killed a patient, and I've not had any sanctions. Now, when my boss referred this, you've got to answer the questions, and this is one of the questions. On page 3 of this, Mel, it says, as far as you know, has the nurse or midwife ever raised a concern about patient safety or healthcare more broadly at your organisation? Yes. Then she's put here on page 10, during the registrant's employment, have there been any concerns or complaints? No. However, on the 5th of July 2024 and the 11th of July 2024, Charlotte Wilson called the police on me for my inappropriate use of social media. However, as it was a civil matter, then criminal, no further action was taken. So why do a referral to the NMC? And the reason she referred me, which is the puppy of all puppies here, what did the nurse or midwife do or not do that caused a concern? Since midwife Victoria Rixon, now she called me a midwife and I was off the register. I've just been put on notice from the NMC that I cannot use the word midwife. So even she doesn't understand that because she's referred to me in there as a midwife and I was off the register. Since midwife Victoria Rixon left working at UHP, which is University Hospital Plymouth, she has commenced a few campaigns that undermine public confidence in the service at UHP and more generally the UK services. From setting up movements to posting online on TikTok and Facebook, things that undermine maternity services and upset colleagues. What's your take on that, Mel?
Well, I think she's focusing on the wrong things. Um, I didn't realize that she'd called the police on you for social media. Did you actually speak to the police? No. Why did she call the police, Victoria?
She said here the reason why she called the police, due to a breach of Section 170 of the Data Protection Act. I mean, come on, this is my baby. As if I know what I'm doing. Subsection 1, the concerns were reported to the police on the 5th of July because they said that I breached data protection. I never ever named anybody. I never named anyone. And the patient gave me consent to share the exit interview. And she said herself, that doesn't highlight who I am. That could be anybody. And that's why she's saying she's referred me. Now, how I know this is my head of midwifery is because she's put here, VR sent me a cease and desist, which is what I did exactly. She jumped into my inbox, my private inbox, and I said, don't think so, love. Out you get. Here's your cease and desist. She's put here, this is what's quite alarming, and this is what really needs to be highlighted. It says here, thinking about the incident, how pressured was their working environment compared to normal? And she's put non-applicable. But the reason I highlighted on my exit interview was that there were only 2 midwives working the shift where everything was so bad, and it had been like that for months. So she's actually telling the NMC a lie here, because if she's referring me for the exit interview and the cease and desist, that was whistleblowing about the unsafe working conditions and for patients. But she's put here, do you consider their workload at the time of any incidents to be reasonable? And she's put yes. Then she's also put here, was staffing adequate? Yes. And have they been able to take their breaks? Yes. She's being dishonest. And under the code of practice, you cannot be dishonest. You have to have integrity. Now, one thing she did do is she breached my data protection by saying this. This incident aside, how would you describe their usual standard of performance? Wait for this. Previously worked with no concerns as a clinical midwife. However, significant periods of sickness in her 6.5 years. Well, before I was diabetic, Mel, I had zero sickness. I think once or twice. As soon as I was a diabetic, I was unwell. I was new, and they had no care for that. She's also breached here, not relevant for this case. VR is diabetic. What relevance has that got to your paperwork here? So I'm highlighting that these managers have no idea about law. They only think about policy, trust reputation, and how they can minimize that impact. So the best way to do that is to get rid of the problem, which is me. Now, when she actually wrote here, she put, I posted unprofessional postings online. And this was quite interesting. To your knowledge, have they been referred to the NMC before? No. And then what's even outstanding is she's put here. What have you as an organization learned since the incident that you think we need to know? Non-applicable. How many baby deaths do we have?
Wow.
We've just had a maternal death at that hospital, 21 years old. It was on a GoFundMe. She died at Derriford Hospital. I haven't got the full details. I've got some.
And sorry, maternity nurse.
A woman, pregnant woman.
Oh, a pregnant woman. Sorry. Right. Got you.
So you're exposing it. And then within the same day of receiving this, I receive a notice from the NMC saying you need to change your name from the uncensored midwife, which is fine. I'm not attached to names. My name is Victoria. You have now been put on notice that the NMC believes that referring to yourself as a Victoria, the uncensored midwife, is a misuse of a protected title. We would appreciate your cooperation in changing your X name and making it clearer that you, while you were a midwife, you are no longer registered with the NMC, which has always been on my profile. Relinquished my PIN. So what we've got here is quite categorically an understanding that they are now pushing my thinking to a member of staff. And I think we can see what they're trying to do.
Say that again. Pushing your
my thinking away from arguing with the NMC and the overarching organisation to an individual. I'm homing in now on these individuals because they've given me it. They didn't have to give me it. They gave me nothing else, but they gave me this. Why? Because that's what they want me to do. They want me to home in and take away the highlight from them. And you know and I know that Robin Hood, who we both know very well and have a lot of respect for, he has written back to the NMC with me and pretty much put them back on notice. What's interesting from this DSAR is, do you remember me telling you that they breached my work car?
Yeah.
This is what I've got back from them. The trust has carried out reasonable searches to locate your personal data. 2 emails have been identified as in scope. Can't see them in the bundle. Both relate to business communication between the Trust and NHS Fleet Solutions and are a discussion about which organisation will pursue the outstanding debt in relation to your lease vehicle. Both emails contain the personal data of a third party who has not given consent for disclosure. So the Trust is unable to disclose these to you. Breach of GDPR.
Absolutely.
You can redact the name, just give me the email. So you can see what's evolving here, Mel.
Absolutely. So what's your next plan of action then for this? Can you talk into that or not?
Yeah, so I rang up the NMC and you can speak to a referral team. And I just said to them, look, I'm a little bit uncomfortable that my manager had breached my data in a document that wasn't about my diabetes. This is not a referral about my health. They've breached my data twice, and I'm not in contract with you or them. So you have to gain my consent to share my data. So I talked to them about that, and I talked to them about me raising all my concerns and it leading up to where I've got to with the threats, with the abuse online, the breach of my car, and they told me to refer the staff members involved. So I've now referred and I've uploaded all of these documents and I've sent it in and said, if that's not a malicious referral, which is, it could well be classed as that. I understand she's saying I'm being unsafe, but being unsafe in your eyes is not unsafe to public. They're two different angles. The public won't see that as unsafe. Some might, but some will say thank you
Yeah.
for saving my life. So that's where I'm at now. So I've referred them and I don't know where that will go. And then with the car, I will deal with that in the courtroom, which is coming up.
Yeah. And did you ever, that friend of yours, that basically did you over, for want of a better phrase, did you ever reach out and say something, or is that just gone?
I posted online that a friend screenshotted my documents, waited for them to see if they had some ounce of conscience. And I actually, a few hours later, deleted her, blocked her. And then by the time I got to Instagram, she had removed me. So she knew I knew who she was. And then I decided to post the actual document, which interestingly enough, my inbox then opened up from midwives. Oh my God, is this Kaylee? Oh my God, did Kaylee really do that? And what that's done is it's highlighted to my colleagues, you now can't trust this manager. And they have a right to know that because they're confiding in their private lives to these people who are paid 80 grand a year. If you look at the pay scaling, and you're going to them with love in your heart and intention to be asked for help.
Yeah.
And that's what you're getting. And I think it's so important that these midwives know that now.
It just stinks, doesn't it? It absolutely stinks. But and it just highlights to me that it is just being run as a corporation. It's not about patient safety. It's not about employee safety. It's not about the good of, um, it's supposed to be, the medical profession is supposed to be there to help and cure and support and all the rest of it. And it isn't. It's just run. I mean, we've known it for years, but when you hear it from the inside, it's just a corporation. And unfortunately, your ex-friend has basically, yeah, been soiled and is putting her pay grade above everything else because perhaps, she's got heavy bills and she does this and she does that. It's the same everywhere, isn't it? It's that fear that everybody's got in them. And we've all had it as well. Oh, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to do the mortgage? How am I going to do this if I do that, if I challenge that? But at some point, like you said, your integrity and your authenticity wouldn't let you do that anymore. And you've got to speak out. And shame on her, Kaylee, for being such a sellout because you had a good friend in this one and you've totally fucked it. And you've probably fucked a few other relationships now that Victoria has spoken out. Um, and I'm sure you came into the profession with good intentions. Will you leave the profession with the same mindset? Probably not. Maybe you've sold your soul to the devil. Anyway, that's my
Exactly what I was just thinking,
yeah,
selling yourself to the devil. And I think for knowing her as I do, it's not about causing anxiety. And people will go, oh, she's drama, drama. It's not. This is just truth. I've got it all in facts, people. It's all here. You can come and read it. But what's the one thing, Mel, that has never come out of any of these documents? What's the one area, bearing in mind the NHS serves us? We do not serve you. Never in any of these documents has it highlighted, we must immediately deal with this because the patients are at risk.
risk. Yeah.
Never. And my gut was right all along. I knew it for 10 years. I couldn't put my finger on it. And now I'm here. I'm like, I knew it. And in a way, it's been cathartic, triggering, but cathartic because although I don't look externally for that validation, it's now given me the understanding that many people don't get their DSARs because they don't have a platform. So they think, oh, they won't even sue us. They won't have the balls to sue us. I've already got a court case against these people. So now they've got to prove their authority to pass on my data, which they've lost already. But they've given me two avenues to go down here. And the avenue is people need to know about how and when, if they go into the hospital, learn your own authority, learn your sovereignty, and it all links across every part of our life, whatever it is.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it back in the COVID times where, I mean, I saw some of the video footage where people were going in to try and get loved ones out of the hospital and all the rest of it, and were being stonewalled, security getting involved, physical assault, and all the rest of it. And like you say, if you know your rights and you stand in your sovereignty, and it's not just in the hospitals, it's everywhere. It's with the police, the bent judges. It's just it's rife everywhere, and the banks, of course. I just said to you, I've just interviewed Trevor Meelan, which will be going out very, very soon. Um, just incredible, incredible. And when you see it, when you see it, and you're like, what the actual? It's like, and we thought we were living. We thought
Yes.
we thought we were living. It's not
No,
living.
now we're living.
Yeah.
We are now living, and it is hard. As you know, it's tough some days. You're like treading mud. But the light that of me just being true to myself keeps me living in a different way. And I would do this all over again, the exact same way. I would be smarter in it for longer.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing, Victoria.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I know you've had a lot on these last few weeks, and it was music to my ears that when you said you're going to chill out in August. So I'm glad for that, even though you're still doing a gig at the end of August. But anyway, I'll let you have that one.
Food, bit of fun with everyone. That'll be a bit different. My family's come in, so it'll be great.
Exactly. So if people want to find out more about you, follow you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, on X, I'm under Victoria underscore Rixon, TikTok, Victoria Rixon, or at the uncensored midwife there at the minute until I can change the name. It doesn't let me do it until tomorrow. Because to be honest, although I'm whistleblowing, I've got so much more that I'm doing in my life now, and it's taking me on a completely different road.
Yeah.
And the realm of England, as we know it, it's very dear to me. And yeah, I just hope whatever I do is getting people thinking and asking more questions. I had a man message me today and say, my baby died at Derriford. And I always knew in my heart something was never right. And I've just seen your TikTok. He knows someone that I know. And this is what they've been afraid of. They do not want the people to start asking questions. And under the HSIB recommendation 13 from Will Powell, who lost his son 35 years ago for a gross negligence, he went on that panel and he created recommendation 13 that every historic case that was unresolved needed addressing first, been brushed under the carpet. And we need to focus on that.
Yeah, totally. Oh, well, okay. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your updates. And I know I'm speaking for all of the viewers and the listeners. We wish you all the very best. And you are a force of nature. You will succeed. And there are many people behind you to help. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mel, for this amazing platform. Thank you.